Hello and welcome to another video from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Today I'm joined by Neale to discuss the latest lineup news and injury news as well from the pre-Gameweek 20 press conferences. Neale, welcome. How are you?
I'm alright, how's tricks?
Yeah, good. Once again, we meet again in this fast-paced festive fixtures. They're a bit of alliteration to get out there. This is the second of our preview videos for Game Week 20. I do urge people to have a look on our YouTube channel. They can see mine and Neale's chat about captaincy. Already getting quite a lot of good feedback about that. Also, just before we get cracking with these injury and lineup news, it was so long, our chat, that we didn't have time to mention West Ham. And people have said, what about Anderson? Against that Burnley defence in capitals for that. Yes, it goes without saying Anderson is a good option against that Burnley defence. But I will understand that West Ham's team news, injury news, won't be released until tomorrow. Is that right, Neale?
That's right, yeah. Pellegrini did a post-match press conference last night, which was also serving as the prelude to Game Week 20. But the second part of that was embargoed till, I think, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we won't have any information about like Hernandez and Zabaleta, and more pertinently, Arnautovic, who I think's close to a return. I think he's penciled in for a return to training this week. So we won't hear anything tonight. On that.
So, well, hopefully that puts people's minds at rest in that we do think West Ham assets are good, particularly Anderson, but we don't know much more about anything potential rotation or Arnautovic till tomorrow. So look out for our Twitter feed tomorrow, and obviously have a look on site. We'll have all the latest there. Meanwhile, we have had some news from some other teams, and let's start with them. Now, Manchester United have a very nice home tie against Bournemouth. What's the latest with some of their assets there? There was quite a number of attackers. They were had all sorts of things, food poisoning, injuries, recoveries. So what's the latest?
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned this yesterday. The three names who we thought would recover are back in contention, and they've taken part in light training. So that's Romelu Lukaku, Anthony Martial and Alexis Sanchez. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be assessed today. You'd expect two of those to certainly play a part. I think Martial, as you said, it was a case of food poisoning. So, it's looking fairly good that he'll come back into the reckoning. Man United's played on the 30th as well, so that's an extra day of recovery. Lukaku was absent for the last two game weeks on compassionate grounds, so again, there's no fitness issue there. I think the one where there'd be more doubt is Alexis Sanchez, because he's come back from a hamstring injury and he's been out for quite some time. So they wouldn't take any risks with him. I think probably a place on the bench at best for him. And I think there was a couple of minor injury updates on players who fantasy managers probably won't be interested in, and McTominay and Rocco are nearing a return. But Chris Smalling is out for a fortnight, so he won't be part of the defensive shake-up. So they'll probably continue with Jones and Lindelof at centre-half. Yeah,
so, some potential. It's nothing kind of definite confirmed, but it just goes to show something we've been discussing in videos already, that especially up top, once those players are back, there will be... they just all won't fit in to just the three front spots. So it was Paul Pogba that we were talking about last week, and I still think it sounds like Paul Pogba is probably the safest bet, really.
Yeah.
He's their talisman really now, and he can play anywhere in midfield as well. Now Chelsea, they've got a potentially tricky tie against Palace. Palace, something of a giant killer at the moment. Once again, they mentioned they ripped up the form book. Well, that's still being ripped up as we speak. But Chelsea, there was particularly with Pedro. What was the latest there? Because that could see a shake-up up front, possibly.
Yeah, it could. Pedro's out for 10 days. He's not going to be available for the rest of the fixture period. He might come back for Game Week 22. It'll be on the 13th or 12th of January. So he's out. Hudson-Odoi, who's another option on the flank. It's not as serious, his problem, but he's very unlikely to play on Sunday. So, yeah, they're down two wingers. Down three, really, because Hazard's been playing as a false nine. So I suppose that does open up the option. We discussed this yesterday on the captaincy video of Hazard moving back onto the left wing. Because there's not really that many options he can play in that front three on the wide positions. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is another option. He's played on the right flank. I think once in the league and a couple of times in the Europa League. But he wasn't involved on Boxing Day.
Could that
So
see
yeah,
Willian? Could Willian play over on the left or?
yeah. Well, William can play on either flank. He's I think he's better on the left flank because he cuts in on his right. I think he's when I contemplated seems a long time ago. I contemplated owning him earlier in the season. I think he's better on the left because he cuts in onto his right and gets more shots off on goal. So yeah, he could play there. It's just who else they've got alongside William to play on the flank, other than Hazard. Now, we've heard a lot about Hazard as the spearhead of that Chelsea attack in the past couple of days. From the player himself, actually, I'm not sure if you've seen this yourself. He did an interview with ESPN,
yes,
which I saw this morning, and he was very adamant that he's a winger, and he's not a striker, and he sees his future on the wing. And while he said he scores more goals when he plays up front, he thinks he plays better when he's out wide. Okay. But sorry, who's the man who makes these decisions, has been talking about it again this morning. He says he thinks we're more solid with Hazard as a false nine. There's a chance that Hazard will play alongside a striker in the future, but he's very happy with his performances up front. So it sounds like he wants to continue with Hazard as a false nine, but he might have that decision taken out of his hands this weekend, given the dearth of options on the flank. And he says Morata's fit, so he's got Morata or Giroud to come in as a bona fide striker if he chooses.
So next up, we're going to mention Brighton, my team, and I've moved them up. Usually, they're just a kind of and by the way, here's some news about Brighton at the end. But they have a change at the back, which could mean that there could be a very cheap option coming soon. So, what's the latest from Brighton?
Yeah, Matthew Ryan's departed for the Asian Cup, so he'll be unavailable till possibly February if Australia progress through that tournament. So yeah, Houghton says he's going to have to make a decision as to who he's going to replace, but we will have a 4.0 million playing goalkeeper for possibly the next 6 game weeks or so.
Okay.
We're none the wiser as to who that will be, unfortunately. He says he's going to make a decision this weekend, but Button made the bench last weekend. Yes. You'd expect he's got the edge. I don't know if you've got any insight on this, Joe, yourself being a Brighton.
Brighton have a very good goalkeeper coaching setup. The consensus is that Button is the better goalkeeper than Steele. Steele was at Sunderland, and Sunderland fans weren't too impressed with him.
Yeah.
However, we haven't seen much of him, and he has spent the last few months being tutored by a very good goalkeeping setup, that has turned Matt Ryan from a very good goalkeeper to an excellent goalkeeper. So I think we don't know, but I think currently from what we do know on the evidence of Button's track record with Fulham, the fact that he has that experience at that kind of slightly higher level as well, I think Button is probably the first choice. It could be a little bit of massaging egos by Houghton here, being clever. So, because if he comes out and says it's definitely going to be Button because Steele's hopeless, then how's that going to make Steele feel, especially if Button then gets an injury?
Diplomacy, isn't it? Yeah.
Button is, of course, coming back from an injury as well. That could make him more susceptible. So for me, I think it's Button, but I really would wait. I would urge caution. And I think whoever starts this game, it'll be them. But I think, if you like taking a risk, go for Button, I would. Meanwhile, Everton showed their class, to put it mildly, against Burnley. Completely hammered them after being hammered themselves. They're a tough team to work out. Concede a lot, score a lot, but they've had a bit of a change. They've started deploying wing backs. So how do we think they'll set up? And has Silva been giving us any clues?
Yeah, stopping short of actually telling us that he's going to play a wing back system. He did talk it up. He said it's something he's had in mind for a while. It's something the club have been working on more on the training ground. And I think when he signed Yerry Mina and Kurt Zouma in the summer, he did discuss that as one option that he could play. And Luca Dean and James Coleman are essentially wing backs in nature anyway, even when they're playing as orthodox fullbacks. So it does seem to suit the players. It does mean that in central midfield, Sigurdsson tends to play slightly more deeper. And one of Gomez or Gale miss out, it was Gale last week, and you'd expect that to continue because Andre Gomez is a cracking little player. So there's no injury news with Everton, apart from Ademola Lookman, who was the only real doubt. But you might see Richarlison back in. He was benched for Boxing Day, given a rare rest. And Silva said after the game that he didn't want to flog him too much. Okay. And he was talking about Calvert-Lewin, who was played as the striker. Yeah, he does, but he did say he wants more from him. Perhaps that's paving the way for a Richarlison return as the spearhead of the Everton attack in whatever system he plays, whether it be a wing-back system or a 4-2-3-1.
Yes, no, that does sound the case. I mean, in the absence of any further news about rotation, I think it's probably safe to say Richarlison's going to start either up front or on the wing, since he missed out last time. He's had his rest. He came on, did well, just in a few minutes last time out. I think so. Yeah, anything else is up for grabs. I'm a Lucas Dean owner, still waiting for him to get a rest. Maybe he won't. There is Baines there, but since Dean is the new Baines now, maybe his rest will never come. Meanwhile, Arsenal, now they've got a right tough one. They go off to Liverpool as well. Once again, it's like a weekly event. How's the Arsenal defence looking?
Yeah, it's a recurring feature, this. Mustafi is the latest one who's nearing a return. He's been training alone and with good feeling, as Unai Emery says. I don't know what that means, but he's set to join the rest of the group today, ahead of the match tomorrow. We don't know if he's definitely going to play or not, but given that Koscielny picked up a knock against Brighton, they need all the bodies they can, really. They've got the option of playing Granit Xhaka again at centre back, but as far as we know, the only fit and confirmed available centre half is Socrates, and they've got people like Lichtsteiner as well who can play there. But yeah, still doubts about Arsenal, which is great news if you're a Liverpool owner. Yes,
the prospect of Salah up against Xhaka or whoever they manage to kind of patch up and get out there is a very good prospect. I still might not captain him myself, but you almost convinced me yesterday, so he's still in the running, definitely Salah, especially with that news from Arsenal. What about some other news? Looking across the fixtures as well now, I mean, Spurs, they've great form, but they've got hardly any rest between all of these fixtures. Any news there about any potential injuries or any hints of rotation for Spurs?
No new injuries, but we've got Aurier and Dele Alli back in contention. Yeah, Ali was actually travelled with the Spurs squad on Boxing Day, but just didn't make the cut. I think they didn't want to risk him against Bournemouth. But he sounds very, very keen to play. Still needs assessment, but I think I've got a feeling that he will feature. Okay. Now, actually, we mentioned yesterday that Lamela might come back in. There was an update on that actually from Pochettino. He seemed reluctant to play him from the start at the moment. He says with Spurs being 4-5-0 up, he wasn't going to take a risk with them, and he wasn't in his best condition to play. Now he's got this long-standing issue that they need to manage carefully. So, I initially had him playing in the team news prediction on the site, but I've taken him out now based on what Pochettino said. He still might play. He might have been hoodwinking us, but that could pave the way for an Ali return.
Yeah, because we spoke about this yesterday with Kane and to a lesser extent Son and Eriksen all being taken off early, with Moura playing the full 90. These new doubts about Lamela and of course Ali, we're not sure about. That could mean we're looking at Kane, Son and Eriksen once again, and possibly Ali. We don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
So okay. What about any other team news?
You might see my eyes darting around the screen because I'm checking TweetDeck as we speak. There's some ongoing. I think the last of the press conference today is Klopp's, which is being held as we speak. Man City, we won't hear from Guardiola till tomorrow, unfortunately. Okay. So that's no help. Diogo Jota is not 100% fit and won't be in the squad against Spurs. No new injuries for Palace. Everyone's fit apart from Benteke. John Joe Shelby's back for Newcastle. And Zaho's out for Cardiff again. So you might see Patterson's Stega execution extended up front as an out-of-position striker. But apart from that, not much of note that I can think of.
Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there then. But there's some embargoed news from
Yeah,
the press conferences. Man City, is it 1:30 tomorrow? The embargo.
yeah, that's
Okay,
was it half an hour before the
so
deadline?
once again, look out on Fantasy Football
Yeah,
Scout for any news there. And also Klopp's press conference is taking place. We're not sure. He's usually quite cagey when it comes to anything about
yeah,
rotation. But once again, keep an eye on the team news page that we have on Fantasy Football Scout and our tweets as well. We'll have all the latest there. But for now, Neil, thanks so much for your time and good luck with the game week.
yeah. Thanks. Good luck to you too.